for some of our volunteers. We have a lot of volunteers that might be seniors, willing to work in the schools, but they can't do it because they don't have the money. Give them stipends so that they can come and spend time in the schools. That is the best way to reach our children, building those relationships where they are, and that's what Men Who Care has been doing. Now, Clayton's going to tell you guys about some of the programs that we have already instituted in the schools that we see are working. They're working. Restorative practice, restorative justice. We had teen court. All of these things we started in the schools, and we see that we are reaching the children, and they're beginning to trust us. That is the key. Do they trust you enough to come to your programs, to pick a new direction for their lives? That is our goal, to build relationships. Parents, we reached out to parents, and the way to reach the parents, we're doing that through food giveaways and things of that nature. But it's very, very important that we all have the passion that this young lady had every time we talk about the violence in our community. It is needed. We need all politicians and everybody to step up. Any money out there, get it to the grassroots organizations. To the grassroots, the ones that are doing it on the streets, in the schools. They're the ones that need funding to make sure they can be consistent. That's the other thing, consistency. We can't go once a year into the school and think we're going to build a relationship. It's not going to happen. So we need that, and the programs out of the school, they defunded the schools. A lot of people don't want to talk about that. A lot of the services that was in school are gone now. How do we get those back? How do we refund our schools to get the services that our children need to keep them from picking up that gun and having to deal with the DA's office? Thank you, and Clayton Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Budd. As he said, my name is Clayton Justice, and I am the Executive Director of Men Who Care Germantown. I want to thank you for having this press conference today. I'm going to talk to you about two programs that are very successful that we're doing, not only in schools, but also with our young men in the community. We have a mentorship program called Real Talk with Men Who Care. That program is designed to create a safe haven so young men can freely talk about anything that they want to talk about. From those conversations, we create advocacy opportunities for them. We applied for the Community Reinvestment Grant from the Office of Violence Prevention, and we were granted an award for nonviolence. We were due and poised to implement some anti-violent prevention and intervention programs in the Northwest section of Philadelphia right before COVID hit. As we know, when that happened, everything got shut down. One of the things that I discovered in one of our Real Talk sessions was that sometimes as adults, we think that we have all the solutions for what's going on in the community. And I realized that the smartest thing that I could do was talk to the people who were personally involved and touched with gun violence every single day. So what we decided to do was to make our young men a part of the solution-based process by asking them, what do they think, that we should do to help curb gun violence in our communities. And I got various answers, and the three that really stuck with me was love, positive mentors, safe places to stay and play, and jobs. So that's our mission. And I'm going to launch a program called the Brothers Partnership. And essentially, from an intervention perspective, we're going to begin to have conversations with young men about violence prevention and what they can do to help us solve this problem. One of the ideas that I came up with was we're working with 4 coaches that have 4 basketball teams, and these kids are all part of our program, was to ask them to peer mentor themselves to make better choices with their lives. And go a little further than that, because we know that they know these individuals in the streets that are committing crimes in our community, is to encourage them and empower them to begin to have conversations with them and invite them to our meetings so they can begin to make better choices. And so we're going to be poised to launch that program very, very soon. It's going to be called the Brothers Partnership, and I think that is going to be highly successful. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Imam Idris Abdul-Zahir, Imam of here National Law, the Center for Human Excellence, and also the board chair. I want to first thank our DA, Larry Krasner, for bringing us all here together because that's very important to understand that it's not just a solution of government necessarily to solve gun violence in Philadelphia, that it's a partnership between government, the community, and the faith-based organizations which are also in the community. And so it's great that they saw fit to come from behind the desks and the offices and come down into the community, to speak with the community and engage with the community, because this is a community problem. It's a city problem, but it's happening on a community level. So we're thankful that we have partners in that office that see the importance of engaging with the community and trying to solve this issue. As a Muslim, in our holy book, we believe, or the holy book says, the Quran says, that if you save one life, it's as if you save all of humanity. And this is because when you save or stop someone from picking up a gun and murdering their brother, you save a father who takes care of a child, who raises a family, who provides for a family. You save a brother who can help with his family, who can help provide for his family, to take care of his family. You save a son who can help take care of his parents in old age and be able to be there as a protection and a positive influence on the community. And so what do we need to do is the question. How are we helping out is the question. So one of the things that we've done here at National Law is we understand that if you give young men and women hope for their future, because many of them are growing up in circumstances that are like hell. Let's just be real. And we have to give them hope for their future. We have to give them opportunities and a way out. Many of them, if you go to them right now and offer them an opportunity that pays them what they're risking their life for right now, they would give it up willingly. So what are we doing? The first thing that we're doing here is, first off, providing moral guidance. Because first off, this is a moral problem as well. If people just see killing people as an okay thing or part of business, this is morally wrong. So moral guidance is the first thing that we try to provide. The second thing is community support. We have various programs here at National Law to not only provide food and groceries and things that you need to feed yourself today, but also workforce development programs so that you'll be qualified for the economy now and in the future. We have computer skills programs, job placement programs that are being developed right now, and also a program that we just completed over the summer, which engaged young people in entrepreneurship, coding, and also the new esports arena. But the whole thing is to give them hope for their future. If we give them hope for their future, give them opportunities to connect with those resources, hopefully we can save a few, and they will save their brothers and sisters. Because, like our brother was saying, the peer mentorship is really important. And the importance of us being able to connect to those people, to give them an opportunity, give them resources, is really important and vital, and we're here to do our part, and we invite you to help us. Thank you.
My name is Kevin Johnson, pastor of Dare to Imagine Church. Thank you, District Attorney Larry Krasner and our Councilwoman Kendra Brooks. I've come today, along with other leaders here in this community, to talk not only about violence, but also to share that this must stop. A few days ago, we celebrated the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And as we all know, that he died because of gun violence. And well before he died, Dr. King said, "The ultimate weakness of violence is that it is a descending spiral, begetting the very thing it seeks to destroy. Instead of diminishing evil, it multiplies it." What we are seeing in Philadelphia is a multiplication of not only just violence, but something that is deeper on the inside that we must collectively seek to address. As I hear the stories of those who have been killed, and even in some instances have had to eulogize people who have been killed, it pains me as a pastor because the violence has to stop. The guns have to get off the street. And we have to work together because this is a crisis that is not only destroying our community, but it will destroy our community. Dr. King said, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. If we are really going to be this city that is called the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection, it's time to stop the violence. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next year, but now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Drinks. So, as you know, I'm about to take questions, and those questions, of course, may be directed to any of the folks who are up here on the topics that you designate. But I do want to say, as I sit here and listen to all this incredible input that comes from our speakers, that it strikes me that we are in very divided times. And yet, at least up here, we don't see division between Christian clergy and Muslim. We don't see division between the community and government. We don't see that. We see that there is no division here. And what we need to solve the crises we face is that there's no division between us and those of you who are watching this, even if it's on a television screen or maybe it's print on a page. And in the same way, these are very isolating times. It has a tremendous psychological impact on people. It's very harmful. And yet, even though we're distant, we are not isolated from each other. We are together. So we hope to continue. We think that the benefit that comes from hearing from the community, from the faith community, from other elected officials, the benefit that comes is incredibly important. As we all try together in this fight, we all try to do the good fight and to get to the bottom of these problems. We all know the only way real problems get fixed is by people. It's not by government all by itself. Are there any questions?
I have like 5, unfortunately. I apologize for everyone. First, do you believe that there's, I want to say kind of you were talking about unity and everybody being here with community partners, but do you think that there's a little bit of people working in silos here throughout the country, or throughout the city, I should say? The police department, the DA's office, the mayor's office, the OVP. It seems like we have a lot of different kind of segments of government that are all trying to kind of combat the same thing. We have different press conferences that we go to, or different meetings that we go to. We listen to city council hearings, and they kind of seem to be working separately. Although I'm sure many things may be happening behind the scenes, it feels sometimes like there's just different people trying to work for the same thing. And kind of the second part to that, has there been any talk about a state of emergency, kind of treating this like we've been seeing with COVID? I mean, and kind of pulling everybody together into fighting this.
So, I think the answer to that is that we can all do better in breaking down the walls of these silos. You are correct that there's a lot of activity that is not necessarily public. I have regular communication with our police commissioner. She has my cell phone number. I have hers. We text, we call. I think that is a very constructive example of how we've been able to break the walls of those silos down somewhat. I would like to see more of that throughout the system. In terms, I have heard discussion about declaration of a state of emergency. That's usually something that is done primarily by the mayor or our council, mayor and council together, but I'm entirely supportive. If people think that declaration has significance, I'm entirely supportive of that.
My second question actually is for Mr. Budd. I wanted to see when you, and maybe Councilman Brooks can talk about this too, but you were speaking about young men who are affected by gun violence. Where are you kind of seeing this separation from the groups that you deal with and the high schoolers that you see and deal with, where that kind of breakdown becomes, where they may become either a victim or defendant and have a gun? Like what age, maybe what circumstances? Is it when they maybe graduate, if they get out of school? Like, is there kind of a theme, I want to say, to?
I'll give you an example. For instance, the street started calling me at 12. So we know that some of the boys in Emlyn and Roosevelt are getting that pull from the streets. But an example is, we were at Martin Luther King having our real talk session. We were talking to the boys, and it came up about guns. So I asked them, how many of you guys carry guns? Out of 12, I think 7 of them raised their hand. So I said, do you have them in here? They was like, no, they're outside. And I said, why do you carry guns? For protection. I said, well, you carry them all the time? Yes. I'd rather be caught with it than without it, is the thing. These were 15 and 16-year-olds. So 7 out of 12 boys that was in our real talk session said they have carried guns. So I think it starts at a young age, and they were being honest because we had an open forum. We said, anything you want to talk about, we can talk about here. And now we can address what the consequences are from carrying a gun and getting caught with a gun. So we can address that and talk to him. One of our boys, we have been working with him. He has a case pending, and he may have settled it by now, but we were working with him. He's been coming around, he's got a job and all of those things. So it's important to build those relationships so when they're thinking that way, how do you assist them, encourage them to pick another direction? Maybe not to have that gun, or don't go where you think you need to carry a gun. But it starts at a very young age. Answer your
Yeah, I
question.
don't know if Councilman first wants to answer, because you had mentioned that your sons, or your children had known people.
Daughters. So my youngest daughter is 12, my oldest is 30. And when I think of collectively over the years, how many friends they have buried is far more than I can even remember. And I want to kind of compliment what Mr. Bud said, like, the draw is so early. Like, when I'm working in schools and having conversations with young people, just the threat and the fear from what could happen to and from school starts as early as late elementary school. So we have to continue to invest in resources to help conflict resolution, restorative practices, character development. All of these things have to start at a much younger age in order if we want to see some prevention done. And on the state of emergency, Councilmember Gautier had issued it through City Council, and we're waiting for the mayor to move on it. So, I mean, it's real to us, and we're working collectively, but it's like building a ship. You know, I'm in office all but a year, a little bit more than a year now, so building these relationships and us coming together, we're moving is not quick enough for what we see on the streets, but I do want to say, like, in government, I've seen through hearings and through conversations we have around GBI and so many other programs that are available that we're sharing it across governmental departments. So it's that and. So we have to make sure we make investments in young people at a much earlier age. And then we also have to make sure that, you know, in government, we're coming together, making sure not only just resources are available, but like solid money and programming is connected to make sure we can solve this issue, as the Reverend said, now, not next year. Yes, please.
So gun violence obviously is nothing new for Philadelphia, but clearly that's what the reason we're all here is because we're in a particularly bad. We're in a particularly bad moment. I'm wondering, and I know the city has some longer-term plans, but is there anything that anyone can speak to in terms of sort of a short-term action plan that's being developed or even being discussed as we see shootings and homicides continue to surge from last year to this year?
You know, I think the fairest answer to that is there are a lot of them. The police are having shooting calls every single week. We participate in those calls with many other agencies. There are efforts that are very targeted at particular locations where things are worse. But here's the truth. Short-term plans don't really solve long-term problems. They may help a little bit here and there. You know, we did some things in our office that have resulted in a very high level of successful prosecution of shootings and homicides. But I'm not going to tell you for 1 minute that that's going to end homicides and shootings in Philadelphia any more than I'm going to tell you that the solution for heart disease is heart surgeons who only deal with you when all the damage is done. I mean, that's just not reality. Your question is a serious one. I'm not trying to minimize it in any way. But I think if we look around, there are a lot of people of goodwill in this city, both out of government and in government, who are trying to do things. I think there's been some remarkable work done by city council, including by council members Jones and Johnson, in bringing together data experts from the police department with data experts from the DA's office to try to figure out what the individuals involved in shootings look like. What are their characteristics? Where might we find some way to get at this? That has become a very positive process, very constructive, much more trusting in terms of people sharing data, even when that data doesn't make it look perfect. You know, there's some good stuff going on there, but there's no quick fix, and there's no quick fix in Philly, and there's no quick fix in any of the big cities in America. I mean, as horrifying as the level of gun violence is in Philadelphia, last year its level of increase was about average for all of the big cities in America. I mean, yes, there were places where it wasn't as bad, it was a 20% increase, but there were places where it was far worse. It was something like an 80% increase. There's no question that what we're dealing with here is very closely linked to the pandemic. And there's no question that it will be made very significantly better to the extent people are vaccinated and society returns to normal for hundreds of reasons. I can go on and on about it. Thank goodness we have some federal leadership that might do something like bail out the city, so all these protective programs we have had, whose effect I guess we all underestimated, are restored. I mean, you want to talk about a quick fix? Here's a quick fix. Let's get people vaccinated quick, and let's get a bailout for the city quick. So a lot of these community-based programs, a lot of the governmental programs that have been so protective over the years are restored quickly. Yes, please.
One of the questions that I have for your office is exactly what are we doing? Where are the guns coming from? Is there some investigation taking place in the state of Pennsylvania, especially Philadelphia? Where are these children getting the guns from?
So, as you may know, or if you don't, let me please try to explain. There are a number of different units in the DA's office that are working with our criminal justice partners on things like where the guns are coming from. So, for example, we have a gun violence task force with the Attorney General's office. It's mostly our lawyers and mostly their agents that are working in a multi-county way, which is the whole idea. They're working in a multi-county way to see where guns are coming from. So if there's a gun show in Oaks, Pennsylvania, well, that's not Philly, but we have the ability to go out there and then track those guns, some of them ghost guns, coming into Philadelphia. We have close connections to alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, which is a federal agency that, among other things, deals with guns. We have close connection to the people in the U.S. Attorney's Office who work very specifically on gun cases. So, you know, without getting into all the specifics, that's kind of the mechanical picture of how criminal justice in Philly tries to deal with it. Needless to say, we deal with the Philadelphia Police Department all the time, who make a lot of individual arrests involving guns. We do a lot of work with straw purchases, things of that sort, people who fraudulently complete the documentation to make a purchase of a gun. But the big picture is this. The big picture is New York is a safer city because New York State has decent gun laws and our gun laws are crap. That's the truth. This is a city that is soaked in guns. It is soaked in far more guns than New York, and the result is predictable. When you have guns